What's up, everybody? I'm Derek Olthius, and welcome to another episode of Trout Academy. Today we're going to be talking about 5 easy tips to improve your fishing photography. Tidy up. So this rule is pretty simple, but anything that's going to distract the viewer from what you're trying to show them, you need to remove it. This could be as simple as zipping up a backpack or a jacket. It could be as complicated as going and removing backpacks and fishing gear from the background. Make a plan. So you should discuss with whoever's going to take the picture what you want in the background, where the best lighting is, how you're going to hold the fish. Discuss all of these things, and then you simply lift the fish up, hold it out for 5 seconds, get a few shots, put it back in, give it a nice long breath. You can review the photos, and if you need to, you just do it again. But having a plan will definitely result in a far better picture. Using a shallow depth of field. This isn't as complicated as you might think, but anytime we introduce things like f-stop and aperture, people tend to freak out. All this is essentially putting your phone into portrait mode or using a low f-stop, the aperture, like a 2.8 or lower on your camera. So why would you use a shallow depth of field? Essentially what you're trying to do is direct the focus of the viewer. You want their eye to look at a certain part of the photo, so you're directing it to that by using a shallow depth of field or a small focal point. If everything is in focus, then they don't know where to look and it doesn't feel natural. Let me give you an example of that in real life. If you hold your hand out in front of your eye is going to focus on your hand and everything else is going to be blurry. You can see that here. Everything else around my hand is blurry. Your eye naturally wants to focus on something. So putting that into your photo is going to feel good to the viewer's eye. Like I said, it doesn't have to be complicated. You can do it on your phone with portrait mode, or you can do it on your camera by simply changing the f-stop or the aperture to a lower setting like a 2.8, a 1.8. Those lower numbers are going to give you that shallow depth of field and a pinpoint focus of where you want the viewer to look. Get out of direct sunlight. Direct sunlight is going to blow out your photos. Your highlights, especially on like a fish, are going to be completely washed out and colorless. And it's just going to be a bad photo. So you want to look around and make sure that you're using softer light. That's the goal, is softer light. So you want to get into a shadow or an area that has less direct sunlight. You really don't have to worry about this so much if you're like early in the morning or later in the evening, if it's cloudy out, or maybe if you're shooting in really northern areas like Alaska. The sunlight tends to be a lot softer at this time and in these areas, and so it kind of naturally does it for you. But if you're shooting a lot like I do in Utah or Montana, Idaho, Wyoming in the middle of the summer where there's a lot of direct sunlight, you really have to watch out for this, and you need to find areas that have softer light by using shadows and playing with the direction that you're facing and things so that you get a really good photo. The rule of thirds. Now, this is just a general rule. Some of my favorite photos have the subject directly in the middle of the picture. However, most of the time, the rule of thirds is going to make a better photo. In the times that my photos have the subject directly in the center, they're usually framed by grass or branches or something to kind of lead the viewer's eye directly what I want them to focus on. However, most of the time, that rule of thirds is really going to give you a better photo. So what you want to do is you basically want to imagine a tic-tac-toe grid where you've got 2 lines going down, 2 lines going across, and you use that grid to pick one of the thirds and put your subject right there and take the picture. It's going to typically make a more interesting photo. Again, the rule of thirds is just a general rule, something that you can play with, but I use it a lot in my photography and have found it to make a much better photo. Quick bonus tip for you guys. Focus on the fish's eye. If you're taking a picture of somebody holding a fish, make sure you focus on the fish's eye. If you don't, the photo's gonna look super weird and it's just not gonna be a good picture. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it. There'll be a new fishing episode out on Tuesday. If you find this content helpful, subscribe and share it with a friend, and we'll see you on the next one.